Hello, everyone, and welcome. Praise the Lord. I'm so happy to be here with you. And today we're going to talk about how to get the best out of your team. And I want to start off by inviting you to think of a perfect team. Have you ever been a part of a team that felt perfect, where you enjoyed working there? Think of the best team that you've ever been a part of. What made it so special? What made it so special? I want to imagine you say things like, I felt loved, I felt appreciated, I felt heard, I felt seen. We went on vacations. Our boss was great. The incentives, the pay. I loved what I did. And the answers are countless. I believe that these 6 things are the things that make a strong team. First and foremost, everything rises and falls on leadership. When we have a great leader, the organization thrives. When the leadership is not doing well, the organization falls, because everything rises and falls on leadership. In fact, my mentor John Maxwell says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so we ought to involve the people that we work with. They ought to feel like they are seen, they are heard, they are appreciated, they are cared for. At the same time, the leadership needs to be intact. And point number 1 was the leadership ought to be great. The leadership ought to be strong. So great leadership. Number 2, a great team is one that communicates effectively and they resolve their conflicts in an amicable and agreeable manner. We're going to talk about that. Don't touch the dial. You will be so glad that you learned about this model that works every time in resolving conflicts. And then the other thing, number 3, is a team that is diverse and inclusive. One of my mentors in the Maxwell Leadership wrote a book on diversity and inclusion. And for the first time in the world, we have 5 generations working together in organizations, serving together in board meetings. 5. And he gave an example where the oldest or the senior most member of that board is 82 years old, and the youngest is a 17-year-old intern. You can imagine the difference in age and views, right? So we'll talk about the 5 generations as well. And then, because the thing is, John Maxwell says that we attract who we are. If we are young, we attract young people. If we are seasoned, we attract seasoned members in your church and in your organization. If it's a church where the pastor and the leaders are musicians, you'll find a lot of musicians will come to that church because we attract who we are. If the pastor is a doctor, you will notice that a lot of educated people will come to that church. Why? Because we attract who we are. And so we're going to talk more about that. And then another great point about a team A great team is that another characteristics is that they work together. They love what they do. They love what they do. And they do what they love. And they do it with the people they like. And with that model, I want to introduce you. Again, it's a simple and a brief introduction to a system that was recently launched by one of my mentors, Patrick Lencioni. And this is on Working Genius, where everybody operates from their strength zone. If you're good at this, you don't try to do that, or you don't try to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Each one of us has something that they do so well and they don't struggle to do it. You need to focus more on what you're good at, because what you're not good at, someone else is good at it. And that is the importance of teamwork. So a great team is one where everyone knows their place. They love what they do and they do what they love, and they work with people they love. They work together well. They collaborate well because they are all operating from their point of strength. And then the last point, which is the sixth point, is a great team is one that has growth-oriented members. And we'll talk briefly about the law of awareness. You've got to know yourself. The law of awareness states that you've got to know yourself to grow yourself. A great team has the right people, and it has people or members that are leadership and development and personal growth oriented. They don't think, now because I have my degree, now because I have my PhD or my master's degree, I have arrived. I don't need to read a book. I don't need to get good at anything else. I have arrived. My mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell, says the day you stop growing is the day you start dying. And so there's no finish line. You've got to keep growing and getting good. In fact, his father, in his 90s, said that his best years or his best days are ahead. And John likes to make fun and say he knows many 25-year-olds who cannot say that their best days are ahead. And so there's no finish line. Instead of thinking, when will I ever stop? When will I get good? When does this stop? At what point do I get good? You think growth. You think competing with yourself. Every day you become better than you were yesterday. You don't compete with the person on your right or on your left. You don't compete with your boss. You don't compete with your subordinates. You don't compete with your spouse. You compete with yourself. Am I doing better today than I was yesterday? Am I doing better this year, a day like today, than I was doing last year? And sometimes I love social media. When you look at Facebook, when you go under memories, it will show you exactly a day like today where you were and what you were doing, especially if you had posted a post. And you should be able to see, how was I feeling at that time? Because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So looking at that picture, you can tell whether you are doing better then than you are now. My prayer is that you're doing better today than you were at that time. And so, having now touched on those points, I want us to start from the beginning. And it is crucial that the leadership is strong, established, stable, because everything rises and falls on leadership. How is the senior leadership doing? How are the departmental leaders doing? For a ministry to succeed, for an organization or a company to stand and produce results, we've got to bear fruits. And by the way, I think there's one more point that I forgot. A A great team is one that delivers results. And it not only delivers results, but it also does so with a touch of excellence. In fact, a great team autographs its work with excellence. And a team is made up of people. So let's get started. How do we get there? Let's go back to the number one most important point. A great team is one that has a strong leader. Everything rises and falls on leadership, says John C. Maxwell. You see, the ministry belongs to God. You and I, we belong to God. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life." God sent his only beloved Son to come and die for us. That's how much he loves us. And so people are not answerable to you. People are answerable to God. Your work as a leader is to give up the first place, the first position, your right of being first in doing something, to doing it last. For example, and Nelson Mandela, I believe it's Nelson Mandela, he once said that a leader eats last. He also said that a leader speaks last. Do you know the importance of those two statements? When a leader speaks first, the rest of the members have been silenced. Nobody wants to come across as if they are opposing what the leader has said. And so a great leader facilitates and he encourages everyone to participate and give their views and their opinions. And then a great leader puts all those ideas together and the best idea wins. It's not the boss's or the leader's idea that wins, it's the best idea that wins. And many times, it's a combination of all the ideas. So a leader is not always right. The work of a leader is to facilitate. The work of a leader is to bear fruits and to help those that they lead to also bear fruits while still connected to the vine, or rather to the tree. And I'll read that verse later on. The other statement is leaders eat last. You see, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership is all about getting people to see things from your point of view. In fact, it's not just about what you see, but it's also listening to what it is that they are saying so that you can work together to reach a compromise or to find the best idea to propel the team that will bring the best idea that will bring us the best results. So, a leader ought to be relational. A leader puts people first. He doesn't put himself first. A great leader puts people first. A great leader will not hold a plate and eat while there's a child staring at them. A great leader will even not have a seat so that everyone else can sit. It's all about putting other people first, because leadership is not a position. Leadership is all about influence. You cannot influence people that you're not kind to. You cannot influence people that you cannot sacrifice for. You cannot influence people that you think are not as good as you are. And that is why Nelson Mandela said that a great leader eats last or speaks last. And I believe it's the one that the late President Mandela said that a great leader speaks last. But there's an African proverb that says, leaders eat last. So it is a privilege when we understand that that people belong to God, they answer to God. We will answer to God. In fact, we will be judged more harsh because we are leaders than our followers. We will answer to God. We all answer to God. And we belong to God. What we are doing, ministry, it all belongs to God. It all belongs to God. When we understand that it all belongs to God, then we see leadership as a privilege to partner with God to do that which He wants done on earth. Leadership is all about people, the people that God loved so much that He died for them. Leadership is all about influence. And so there are two kinds of leaders. In fact, I like to say that there are three kinds of leaders. But we're not going to talk about that one leader because that's not an ideal leader. They should not even carry the title or bear the title of a leader. There are two kinds of leaders. Leaders that add and leaders that multiply. And of course, there are leaders that minus, leaders that take away. These are insecure leaders that we are not going to talk about today because by covering just the two leaders, we're good. So a leader who adds, a leader that operates from the principle of addition will add members, sales. You'll do better every year than you did the previous year. Why? Because the principle of addition is in place. But a leader who multiplies, he finds a tactic or uses a tactic or a system that makes him distribute what he knows and what he has to capable men so that they can co-lead, so that they can help him lead. We're going to talk about the 80-20 rule, and it's also referred to as the Pareto principle. And I want us to start in the beginning by reading a story about a man called Moses and his father-in-law called Jethro, who were both Levites. You see, we're going to read I'll have you take this down so that you can read it by yourself later on. But Exodus chapter 18, verse 13 to 27, and we'll start with verse 13. I'll just paraphrase it. You see, Moses used to take his seat to serve as judge for the people from the beginning of the day until the end of the day, from morning to evening. Moses sits on a chair and he judges. He takes the place of a judge from morning to evening. That's a lot. And he's doing this for hundreds and thousands of people. Verse 14, we see Jethro saw all that Moses was doing, and he asked, why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning to evening? Verse 15, we see Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, saying to Moses, what you're doing is not good. You cannot handle it alone. The work is too heavy for you, and you will only wear yourself out as well as the people that you're serving. And so Jethro gave his son-in-law Moses advice, and he asked him to appoint leaders over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. In verse 26, we see that the simple cases that Moses used to address, he used to address the difficult cases and the hard and the easy, the simple cases and the difficult cases. We see that Moses started now addressing just the difficult cases. And the hard ones, or rather the simple ones, were addressed by the leaders. We see him dividing his leadership, finding men that are competent and training them and equipping them and making them in charge of thousands and hundreds and fifties and tens. And only the difficult cases would come to Moses. That is the principle, the Pareto principle, the 20-80 rule. He picks the best, his 20%, he trains them, he equips them, he sharpens them, and he has them serving the bottom 80%. You see, a naive leader or an insecure leader, or maybe a new leader, I doubt maybe a new leader would even do this. Let's just say a naive or an insecure leader will try to do everything on their own. Only a naive or an insecure leader will try to do everything on their own. We see Moses getting overwhelmed, leading thousands of people. And we see him after that getting a break and focusing on casting the vision and communicating with God and doing the important things that nobody else could do, while all the other things are handled by his top 20% leaders. You see, when a leader focuses on leading and cleaning and serving and doing everything else, then there's no one to cast the vision. And this leader will run out of energy. They will burn out. They will be impatient. Nobody wants to be around people that are impatient. And then this is the other disadvantage. Their families will suffer. Their spouses will suffer. Their health will suffer. And there's a very high turnover rate of pastors in the world today. Why? Because they lack the proper training. So every leader needs to understand the importance of the 80-20 rule. A leader that is everywhere will be ineffective. Find your top 20% leaders. This Pareto principle states that 20% of the work in any organization, in any church, 20% does all the work. 20% of people do all the work, bring the results that the company needs. And so a great leader will identify this 20% and equip himself or herself, or equip these 20%. Multiply. Remember the law of multiplication, a leader who multiplies. Duplicate yourself, teach these 20% and let them go do what Moses did when he was advised by Jethro. When you do that, you'll get many great ideas. You'll find people that are gifted in your areas of weaknesses and they perform at their best because that is their strength. What could be a weakness for you? Let them do it, run with it. And this is where now we talk about the 3 Ds, where a great leader delegates. Anything that someone else can do, don't do it. That's not your responsibility. Delegate it. Find the right person, equip them, train them, and let them know you're available for consultation and let them run with that project. Let them form their own small committee and run with it and run with the project. A great leader separates, or rather gives up all the tasks that someone else can do, and they focus on doing only that which them can do. For example, casting a vision. Only a visionary, only a leader, a top executive leader can cast a vision. So delegate all the other tasks, let them be done by someone else, and you focus on the things that only you should do. You deserve a break too. You deserve some extra rest, some sleep. Share the responsibilities with other people. Then the other D is delete. There are things that you should not be doing because they are not bearing any fruit, they are not bringing any results. Let them go. And then there is the D, the third D, which stands for do. Do the things that only need to be done. The rest of them, don't do. And if there's something that you need to defer it. Let someone else do it. Then the next point that we are going to talk about today is, we've talked about the parental principle, we've talked about the 3Ds, we've talked about the 2 different kinds of leaders. Next, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about growth-oriented leaders. If we have a team that has the right people, they will be growth-oriented. They will not be thinking, oh, I don't have to keep growing. No. The day you stop growing is the day you start dying. That's what our mentor, John Maxwell, says. The law of awareness states that you must know yourself to grow yourself. Take inventory of the things that you do and you do well, and the things that you don't do well or you don't like to do, and let someone else do those things. Yeah. In this growth journey, this is where you learn about productivity. This is where you learn about systems. This is where you learn about growth, goal setting and goal getting. So be growth oriented. Pick a book. A great leader is a reader. They read. Take a book and read for at least 30 to 60 minutes a day. And select a time when you'll be reading. Is it early in the morning when you wake up, or is it before you go to sleep? Just make it consistent. Do it faithfully, and in 5 years, you'll be an expert in that field, especially if you narrow down on a topic. Then in 10 years, you'll not even need to introduce yourself because everyone will know who you are. So be growth-minded. Be growth-oriented. Think of ways of how you can grow. Then the next point that we're going to talk about is great teams are those that have people that do what they love to do, do what they love to do, and love what they do. I understand that the last few weeks you had a coach come in and talk to you about temperaments. I don't want to focus on that, but it is important for us to find what it is that we are good at, and we do what we do well in. And what we don't do well in, let someone else who's good at that do it. So find a system that will help you identify who's good at what. I can recommend 2. There's DISC personalities, DISC human behavior analysis assessments. That's a great one. And there's also the working genius, where each one of us has something that they're so good at. They are genius at it. For example, a fish is great at swimming. A squirrel is great at climbing trees. When you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you have punished the fish, and it will go through life thinking it is not smart. Don't force yourself to do something that you're not good at. Do what you're good at and stay there. The next thing, we've talked about those 2 systems. So let's not dwell on those. Let's first of all focus on the temperaments that we were taught by our dear coaches the last few weeks. I hear there were 3 sessions. Let's marinate on that. And in future, maybe we may be able to come and talk about this. And then the other one is a great team is diverse, is one that is diverse. And think about it. We're living in days that are interesting times. For the first time ever in history, there are 5 generations working together. And not only working together, we have my mentor, Tim Elmer, talks about the youngest member of this board meeting being 17-year-old intern, and the most senior person being, guess how old? 82 years old. And everything is perfect. if this team can learn to work together, whereby we realize and we identify the difference between timely advice and timeless advice. The young people will bring us timely nuggets and wisdom, but the older generation, like our parents and our grandparents, they will bring us timeless knowledge. And that is a class by itself, so I won't dwell on that. But remember this one thing. We attract who we are. If you want to have a successful team, have every voice represented in the boardroom. Have a young person, have an elder person, have a lady, have a male, have all groups represented. Because when that team comes together and we bring what it is that we do, that we value, that we want to see, we bring all that to the table. When there is unity, God commands a blessing. Even when there is unity with the wrong purpose, there is a blessing in it. It's very unfortunate that it happens that way. But there's something about unity. Unite bad people, like thieves. When they unite, they will conquer whatever it is that they need to conquer. Unite people with a common goal, with a common mission, and a great one for that matter, and nothing will stand in their way. They can achieve any dreams because there is unity. So have the right people in your team and have all the groups represented in your boardroom. When you do so, and it's time now to go recruit other people and form subcommittees, we'll have a full church and one that is growing. We will not have just one, young people and no older people. We'll not have more women and less men. We'll not have educated people and another group that is and lack a certain group. When we have a diverse group, then growth happens, results are achieved. Next, I want us to talk about communication. Communication is a great tool. A team that is successful, that is working together well, communication is key. And I want to speak to all leaders, address all leaders at this time, and request that whatever mode of communication you're using, whether it's virtual or in-person meetings or WhatsApp or Telegram where you write to each other, make it a point to respond. You can set up a rule where you say everyone should respond within 24 hours. Within 24 hours, respond if you are a part of a board or if you are a part of a group. If it's an email, respond within 48 hours. I was very surprised to find out that John Maxwell himself, him and his wife Margaret, they have an email rule where they respond to emails within 48 hours. What is stopping us from growing or from having strong teams is when the communication is broken, is when we blue tick each other, is when some people don't show up for meetings, or they don't respond, or they don't read minutes, or we're not kind to each other, we don't treat each other with respect. And that leads me to the next point, conflict resolution. I'm going to teach you a model that will help you resolve conflicts. And this is called the SBI model. But before I go to that, always provide people, when you're leading people, always provide people with choices or give them enough time to organize themselves if you want to plan a meeting. Don't just ambush people and say we are meeting tonight or we are meeting tomorrow unless it's an emergency. But always be considerate of people. They have jobs, they have families, they have their own thing going. So either involve them in choosing a suitable time or give them enough notice. And honor their time. If a meeting is supposed to start at a certain time and finish at a certain time, try to start on time. In fact, on time is late. They say 15 minutes is early. So be there 15 minutes before the meeting. Start the meeting at exactly at the top of the hour and finish 5 to 10 minutes early. When you become a man or a woman of your word, your subordinates, your people that you call laborers will not have a problem working with you and attending your meetings. So honor their time and they will be happy to serve with you. And they will multiply. Remember, we talked about a leader who multiplies, right? And then where there are people working together, there will always be conflict. There's an African proverb that states that two axes cannot work together and not collide. When a conflict occurs, you want to resolve it as quick as you can. Don't wait for too long to resolve a conflict. It will only brew and cause more problems. And as you resolve a conflict, always protect the heart of the other person, by always choosing the right words carefully. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 1, states that a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So let's learn to speak the truth in love. And now let me present to you the SBI model that works every time. The acronym SBI, S stands for the situation. B stands for behavior. I stands for impact. Let me give you an example. And I'll give you a scenario of what may have happened. And this is an example that I use a lot. Last week on Monday, I posted a message on WhatsApp leadership group. And the leaders responded, but one or two blue ticked me. They did not respond. That's what I mean by blue ticking. You see, this can make you feel bad as the top leader if you're talking to yourself all the time and other people are not responding, and especially when some decisions require that every member of the team responds. And so they cause delay. And the question that I always wonder, why would you want a team to delay? Because you are not providing your answers or your responses in a timely manner. That's not godly. That's not proper. And so I'm going to help you identify what is this S and B and I and how to respond to such a person who does not respond to your messages. So S stands for situation. I want you to exactly remember what happened and describe what happened, when, what day, what time, just describe the situation. And then for the behavior, what happened? What was the action? What caused that? What really happened that made you feel however way you felt? Explain that. And then the I is the emotion that was stirred in you. How did that make you feel? For example, the example that I gave you, the situation happened last week on Monday, where I sent a message on the WhatsApp leadership group, right, for the church. And then the behavior was a certain brother or a certain sister, or maybe two, did not respond. They ignored your message, right? They did not respond to your message. They blue ticked you. And then the impact that had on you is you felt like you did not matter. I felt I did not matter. I felt ignored. I felt disrespected. You see, when you say you always do this, you always not respond on time, that's accusatory, that's judgmental. And the people that have felt accused, they will push back, They will defend themselves, they will get angry, and that will only cause more problems. So don't accuse people. Use your weapons. In this case, your weapon is your feeling. Your feelings. How did you feel? That's the impact that we're talking about. How did you feel? Because nobody can argue with how you felt. That's who you are. That's how you felt. That is how you felt, and no one can change that. Maya Angelou once said that people will forget what you do, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So emotions are a big part of our lives, and we cannot just look down on them, on how people feel. So state how you feel. And then now the next thing you do is draw the line and say, I expect that we get a response from our messages within 24 hours. You see, you've stated clearly what the expectations are. You're teaching these people how to treat you, how to respect you, but do it with grace, do it with love, and say it with love and finality. Next time, they'll be cautious when it comes to them doing that again. So with this SBI method, never respond immediately and always take time to cool down. Don't wait for too long, but don't respond that same moment. Wait for a day or two, or maybe a week, based on what it is that you do and who you do it with. And then now ask for a meeting. Okay? And state exactly what the situation was, what the behavior was, the impact it had on you, and what it is that you will tolerate and what it is that you will not tolerate. Again, say it with love and with finality. You see, the thing is, when you raise the standard so high, the only thing that this person that has offended you can do is just apologize. And you've taught them exactly how to treat you. So the other thing I wanted to mention is don't give feedback. Don't give feedback unless you're invited to give feedback. A lot of times we invite ourselves to give advice and to give feedback to people. Yet we don't know, we don't have the full picture. We are only sharing with them what we see based on our perspective and where we stand. You could be seeing, if you draw 6-9 on the ground right now, and one person stands on this side of the 6-9 and the other person stands on the other side of the 6-9, you will see 69, but the person who's standing on the other side will not see 69. They will see a different number. So it depends on where you stand. So try not to give advice unless you are invited to give advice or to even give feedback. But it's always great to have that feedback. So again, as I said, raise the bar so high that all they can do is apologize and go forward. Going forward, they will treat you with respect. So my friend, that is the SBI conflict resolution method. The next point, and I believe this is our last point for the day, is a great leader or a great team is one that delivers results, and they do so with excellence. I was privileged and honored to work under the leadership of Dr. David Gashangeshi in North Carolina as his administrator. He was a senior pastor. And I've met many people, many pastors, but this one, he was not only wise, but also a very sharp mind as a physician and a pastor at the same time. And one of the statements that he used to make was, excellence is the standard of the kingdom. Think about it. If God was not a God of excellence, maybe one day a star would have fallen from heaven and hit earth and burned the whole entire planet. But our God is a God of excellence. And when you read about how King Solomon built the temple for the Lord and all the instructions and the specifications of what needed to be where and what it needed and the measurements and the quality, you will see just how precise God is. He's a God of order, a God of excellence, a God of elegance. And not only that, we are created in the image of God, and we have the mind of Christ. So we understand what it is that God wants and how to do these things, right? Let us become people that give God the best, knowing that one day we shall answer to Him. We shall answer to Him. We shall be answerable to Him. There's a story of the talent where a master was going to a far land and he left his servants to watch his talents. One was given 1 talent, the other one was given 2 talents, and the other one was given 5 talents. The one that was given 1 did not do anything with it. They just dug a hole, hid it, kept it there until the master came back. They dug it back and gave it to him, back to him. The other 2 doubled their talents. The one that had 2 gave back 4. The one that had 5 gave back 10. One day, we shall answer to God what we have been given, what we did with it, and if we utilized it to the fullest. Our God is a God of order and a God of excellence. Let us serve Him with excellence. Let's give Him our very best. Let's give Him the first best part of our day, the first best part of our income, the first best part of our talents, not what is left. Let's deliver results with excellence. Let's autograph our work with excellence. Because one day we shall give an account of what we did and how we used the resources, the talents, the gifts, the time that we have been given today. We should use it all for God, for ministry, for others. For us to deliver results, we've got to have systems that are working. We've got to have not only systems that are working, but we've got to operate from an annual calendar that is prepared a year before, where we know what we are doing at what time, and this proper planning taking place. And this all began when the visionary of the ministry dreams and envisions where it is that he's taking this ministry or this organization. A visionary is like a captain. They know exactly where they are taking up a ship or where they are taking a plane. And then after they know exactly where they are taking the ship, then they break it down into what are the actionable items. And then we plug in the dates on the calendar. We set goals. And we get goals. We get results. So that brings us to the end of our session today. I hope you have been blessed. It was quite a lengthy session, but I do hope that we can have some other time where we can break each one of those 6 points and tackle each one of them at a time. Give each one of those sessions a day or even more than a day and see how far we can go and how far we can grow. Thank you so much for creating the time to be with me. I hope you have been blessed. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Facebook as Essie Daniel, or you can send me an email at essiedaniel254@gmail.com. Thank you so much for being here. I truly do appreciate you.